name is Lance Wallace. I'm the teaching pastor at First Baptist Church of Windsor, and we wanted to put together some YouTube videos for parents at home to get this information. I preached this sermon at church this last Sunday, and it's fresh on my mind. I want to give it to you. There's going to be 4 videos. Basically, the first video deals with young children and God's command to them as children, so we want to make that clear to you. The second video will deal with God's instruction for parents, and that's basically how to instruct your child, how to discipline your child. And the third will deal with how we provoke our children to anger. And the fourth will be how to rebel-proof your life, what we tell teenagers on how to live a life of honor towards their parents. So those are the things we're going to cover in 4 different videos. Just to let you know too, I've got 4 children. Gabe is 13, Emma is 11, Johnny is 8, and Alice is 2. And so these are things right in our life, what we're dealing with right now. So the first thing is in Ephesians chapter 6, there's some instruction to children and to parents, and we want to cover that first. So in church on Sunday, I had all the kids just come up and ask them, what is your responsibility to God regarding your parents? What is the one command that God gives to children? And God gives this command 4 different times in the scriptures, and most of the kids got it right away. They know this command, but it's in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment, with a promise that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. And so I asked the kids, what's the promise that goes along with this command that God gives? And the promise is, and the kids, they get the first one, they get the long life, and none of the kids at church on Sunday knew the promise that it'll be well with you, that it'll be good for you. And so we really want the kids to understand what that blessing is like to obey their mom and dad. So what we do, at times I go to parents' houses and help their kids understand why they need to obey their mom and dad. And so I'm going to just give you this illustration. It's right out of Shepherding a Child's Heart from Ted Tripp. The other book that I will be referencing a lot in these videos are The Heart of Anger by Lou Priello. So this is the illustration we use. And so basically there's 2 circles. And all of my children know these illustrations really well. They could probably give this for you. This is a place of safety. This is a place of danger. Here's the child. All right, so the child that honors and obeys, they're in this sphere or circle of safety. This is well for them, or good, and long life. I just find it interesting, when I was growing up as a young person, I just remember the 2 things I really wanted in life. I wanted a good life, and I wanted a long life. And I was scared of dying, even as a little kid. So those are 2 promises that God gives that I think are real important to drive into your children. Now, if a child disobeys or dishonors their mom or dad, they go into this circle of danger. And in this circle, you have dishonor and disobey. And this will be difficult and hard. So in this sphere, when you disobey and dishonor, this is a place of difficulty and a place of hardship. And the question then is, well, how, for the child, how do they get back into this sphere? Or as parents, what's our responsibility to God to get them back into this place of well-being and long life? And so this is an important step in this process. This is the process of discipline and correction. Okay, so that's the parent's job there, to provide the discipline and the correction needed to get their child back into this place of safety. And that's the parent's role. Their children need this. Let me just give you a couple scriptures on discipline, and we'll get into this more in the next video. But Proverbs 13:24 says, "He who withholds his rod hates his son." So that's a very strong scripture, talking about discipline there. And then it goes on to say, "But he who loves him disciplines him diligently." So discipline in the home is a diligent process. I remember there were days that my wife pretty much spent almost all day disciplining our older son, who's difficult as a younger child. And so it's a diligent process. It takes strength, it takes courage. We'll talk about that in the next session. The other proverb I would share with you, Proverbs 22:15, "Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, and the rod of discipline removes it far from him." So I think it's pretty clear the rod means to spank, and so we practice spanking in our home. Spanking is also known as corporal punishment. Corporal punishment is legal in the state of California, and so we believe that it's God's way of disciplining our children. And so every time I have to discipline and correct, especially when our children are in the ages of 2 to 10, I think that's kind of the sweet spot there, 2 to 10, we just tell them that foolishness is bound up in your heart. You've disobeyed us. We need to correct you and discipline you for your good, and we love you, and then we discipline them. So that's that. I wanted to quickly share too in this video, why does my child not obey me even as a young child? What are some of the reasons for that? And let me just share 3 different reasons why your child might not be obeying you as a young child. First of all, your child might not be listening to you, and so what we've done is we just make sure we have eye contact with our children and really make sure they're hearing our command. Some of our kids are better listeners than others, so we just want to make sure they're hearing what we're telling them. Secondly, we want to make sure we have clear commands that they understand, especially when they're younger, just simple things. And so sometimes maybe they're not understanding your commands that you're giving them. So you have to learn to talk their talk a little bit so they understand you. And then third, you want your child to become a first-time listener. And what that means is if you continually repeat yourself and then they start hearing you on the third time, you're going to go crazy, and your child knows that they're buying some time in order to obey you. And so you want to teach your children to be first-time listeners. If they hear you, they understand you, and they don't obey, then they need discipline and correction for that. So hopefully that's helpful, and that's it for our first session.